Have you ever met a woman who lives alone? No boyfriend, no husband, just her. And deep down, maybe you wondered, is she really okay? Part of you admires her independence, but another part quietly whispers, maybe she's just been hurt too many times. In this world, single women carry invisible labels: incomplete, lonely, unwanted. But if we see through the lens of Viktor Frankl, being alone isn't proof of loneliness. It can be a conscious, powerful choice, a choice to live with meaning rather than just attachment. Frankl once said, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." Some people stay in relationships their whole lives and never live a day being true to themselves. Others walk alone, and with every step, they answer life's question, "Who are you?" when no one else is defining you. So tell me, what's more frightening? A woman without a man, or a woman who gave up her soul just to keep one? Why society fears a woman who doesn't need a man. Society is comfortable with a woman who waits, a woman who wants to be chosen, who softens herself to fit the mold. But a woman who doesn't need to be chosen? A woman who isn't waiting, who's walking. That's terrifying, because she disrupts the story we've been told, that a woman's life begins only when she's claimed by someone else. We've built entire cultures on the idea that love completes her, that marriage saves her, that children redeem her. But what if none of those things define her? What if her life was already meaningful before anyone arrived? Viktor Frankl believed that meaning is not something we find in others. It's something we create through how we live, how we suffer, how we choose. He survived the Holocaust. He lost everything. And yet, he wrote, "Everything can be taken from a person, except one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." A woman who lives without needing a man isn't bitter. She's dangerous to a system that profits from her feeling incomplete. She doesn't rebel loudly. She simply exists on her own terms. And that is more radical than any protest. Loneliness versus solitude. One can break you, the other can save you. Loneliness hurts. It's the ache of not being seen, not being needed. But solitude is different. It's chosen. It's quiet, but it doesn't scream. It doesn't beg to be filled. Most people don't know the difference, because we've been taught that being alone means something's wrong. That if no one is calling, texting, chasing after us, we must not matter. But that's not true. And Viktor Frankl would be the first to say so. He wrote that meaning can be found even in suffering, especially in the suffering we choose. Solitude is not the absence of love. It's the presence of self. A woman who sits with her own silence, who makes tea for one without apology, who chooses herself day after day, is not empty. She's rooted. Loneliness says, "I am not enough without someone." Solitude says, "I am enough even when no one is here." One comes from fear. The other comes from freedom. And if you want to know which one you're in, ask yourself this: do I feel forgotten, or do I feel found? Don't chase love. Build meaning. We live in a world that tells us love is the cure. Find your person, fall in love, then everything will finally make sense. But what if that story isn't true? What if the real reason you feel empty isn't because no one loves you, but because you haven't yet found something worth living for? Viktor Frankl saw this clearly. He treated people who were deeply loved, but still deeply lost. Because love cannot replace purpose. Yes, love is beautiful, but when we use it to escape ourselves, it collapses. A relationship built on emptiness becomes a desperate transaction. You make me feel important. so I don't have to face the fact that I don't know who I am. And the moment that person withdraws, or fails, or leaves, the hole returns, bigger than before. Frankl taught that we don't find meaning in being loved. We find it in the way we give ourselves to something beyond ourselves. It might be a cause, a project, a path, a reason to wake up that has nothing to do with how someone else feels about you. So if you feel empty, don't chase a partner. Chase meaning, because someone can fall in love with you tomorrow and still not save you. But if you discover meaning, you just might save yourself. A woman who chooses herself is not selfish. She is sovereign. There's a word people whisper when a woman starts choosing herself: selfish. They say she's too proud, too independent, too much. But maybe they're just not used to seeing a woman who doesn't need permission to exist. A woman who says no to what the world offers when it doesn't align with her values. She's not rejecting love. She's rejecting less than love. Viktor Frankl taught that meaning is not given, it's chosen. It's created through suffering, through clarity, through radical responsibility. And sometimes, the most meaningful act is walking away from everything that numbs your soul just to stay accepted. This woman isn't cold. She isn't angry. She isn't unreachable. She is sovereign. She has learned that her worth doesn't live in someone else's hands. She has grieved the fantasy that someone would come save her, and she has risen anyway. Frankl would say, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That's what she did. She stopped trying to be wanted and started becoming whole. The world may never understand her, but that was never the point. People don't always understand a woman who walks away from expectations, from timelines, from roles she was never meant to play. They ask, what's wrong with her? Why is she so difficult? Doesn't she want what every woman wants? But that's the thing. She's not here to want what's expected. She's here to want what's true. Viktor Frankl said, what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal. Sometimes, that goal is to live with integrity, even when it makes you the outsider. The world may never fully understand her, and that's okay, because her life isn't a campaign for approval. It's a quiet, fierce rebellion against the emptiness that comes from pretending. They may never see what she sees. They may never feel what she feels. But she keeps walking, not because she's trying to prove anything, but because she's finally free of the need to explain. And in that freedom, she finds something even deeper than being understood. She finds peace. She isn't waiting. She's becoming. She's not waiting anymore. Not for a text, not for closure, not for someone to come along and finally say, you're enough. Because she stopped outsourcing her becoming. She realized life isn't asking her to be loved. It's asking her to become something worth loving. Frankl wrote, life ultimately means taking the responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and to fulfill the tasks it constantly sets for each individual. She stopped asking, why am I alone? And started asking, who am I becoming because of it? She isn't filling the silence with distractions anymore. She's using it as raw material to build strength, to build rhythm, to build a life that speaks back. While the world watches the door, she's building the house. While others chase validation, she's chasing vision. This isn't the story of a woman who gave up. It's the story of a woman who stopped negotiating her worth and started negotiating her future. Why her strength makes people uncomfortable, and why she keeps it anyway. Her strength unsettles people, not because she's aggressive, not because she's loud, but because she doesn't flinch. She doesn't perform. She doesn't need to be rescued. And that That makes others wonder what they've given up just to feel accepted. In a world where women are taught to shrink, she expands. In a culture that rewards the soft, silent, agreeable version of femininity, she carries fire. Viktor Frankl warned that freedom without responsibility is dangerous. And she understands this. Her strength isn't just defiance, it's direction, it's discipline. She knows that real meaning is often heavy. And most people don't want to carry anything heavy. They want lightness, comfort, applause. But she's not here for applause. She's here for alignment. She doesn't shrink to fit the room. She builds a room around who she's become. And yes, that kind of power makes people uncomfortable. But that's okay. She didn't come here to be comfortable. She came here to live with meaning, even if it costs her being liked. There's no one coming. And that's where her real life begins. No one's coming. That was the most terrifying truth she ever faced. No one is coming to fix it, to hold the pieces together, to make her whole again. But strangely, that truth didn't destroy her. It freed her. Because if no one's coming, she can stop waiting. Stop waiting for the right moment. Stop waiting for someone to understand. Stop waiting to be chosen, healed, approved. Viktor Frankl wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." She found that space. And in that space, she stopped making excuses for why she hadn't become who she was meant to be. She stopped blaming heartbreak, family, timing, or anyone else. Because no one is coming. And that's where her real life began. When she became the one who arrives, who shows up, who does the work, who holds herself, who creates meaning. Not because someone told her to, but because she's finally strong enough to stop waiting. Alone isn't a condition. It's a capacity. Being alone isn't something to fix. It's something to hold, something to grow into. Most people treat solitude like a symptom, as if being alone means you're broken. But solitude is a skill. It's the ability to sit in a room with no noise and still hear your own voice clearly. It's the capacity to go days without validation and still know who you are. Viktor Frankl never said life was about happiness. He said it was about meaning. And sometimes the only way to find that meaning is to go where the noise of others can't reach you. She learned that. She learned that solitude isn't cold, it's clean. That when you stop filling the silence starts filling you. And no, solitude isn't always pretty. It will confront you, mirror you, expose the gaps you tried to cover with relationships, achievements, busyness. But if you can stay long enough to feel the truth rise up inside you, you'll walk out not empty, but anchored. This was never about rejecting love. It was about not losing herself for it. This was never about rejecting love. It was never, "I don't need anyone." It was always, "I won't lose myself to have someone." There's a difference. She's not anti-connection. She's not cold. She just refuses to shrink into something love can consume instead of walk beside. Viktor Frankl said, "Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality." Real love sees your depths and doesn't ask you to hide them. Real love doesn't ask you to abandon your voice just to keep the peace. She learned that too many people call it love when what they really want is comfort, compliance, silence. And she's done giving those things in exchange for a placeholder. If she ever loves again, it won't be because she's afraid to be alone. It will be because the life she built alone is so full, so true, so grounded, that someone worthy of standing in that space beside her would only add to it, never replace it. She didn't end up alone. She ended up with herself. People will say she ended up alone, but they're wrong. she ended up with herself, with her values, with her peace, with the quiet strength that comes from no longer begging life to be something it never promised. She lives in a space now where she can hear her own thoughts, and they don't scare her. She wakes up and doesn't feel the need to prove anything. She's not waiting for the next chapter. She's not halfway to happiness. This is the life, the one she built, the one she chose, the one that may not look complete from the outside, but holds everything that truly matters. Viktor Frankl believed that the deepest fulfillment doesn't come from comfort, but from carrying a responsibility that gives life meaning. And now, she carries her own soul. Not perfectly, not easily, but fully. She didn't end up unloved. She ended up undiminished.